Hi and welcome to this video. Today we're heading into the heart of Cheshire in the UK to visit Beeston Castle. So let's go take a look. Okay, so getting to the castle is not that difficult. There's a few winding, narrow roads that you have to go along, but that was expected, and it's not too bad a drive. You can see where we're heading, right to the top of that hill in front of us, and you can see that the castle can be seen from all around, which is what most castles are like, as you'll discover if you watch more of these videos. It was built early 1220, so it's pretty much almost 800 years old to the day. It is a ruin. It's not a fully fledged castle, but it's pretty spectacular. Once you get up there and you can see the surrounding area, it's pretty amazing. This wall on the right hand side you see here is part of the grounds, but it's not part of the castle. It was built in the Victorian years, around 1850 I believe. It was built to control the access to the castle. Even back in Victorian times they thought this was an ancient monument, which is really hard to get your head around, but even back then it was really old. So this includes this entrance here, which is also built in the Victorian times. This is just built in the style of the castle and is not part of the main castle. It's just a ticket office where you pay to go into the castle grounds. So this is the Victorian entrance, which was built in 1846, like I mentioned before. Beeston Castle and Woodland Park. So you go in here, you pay your money in the gift shop, and then you can enter the main grounds. And here we are approaching the outer ward. It's what they call the outer ward. The best thing to do is let me show you a map that I've drawn, and I can describe it a little bit better. So this is the map of the grounds, and you can see that big line all the way around the outside is the Victorian wall, and the gatehouse at the bottom, which we've just gone through. And we're making our way up through that little grey path I've drawn up to the outer ward gatehouse. Now this outer ward is the sort of main grounds of the entire castle. This is where it begins and this is where you enter it. Anything outside of that would have been just natural countryside when the castle was originally built up until the 19th century. So this is where the gatehouse would have been, and there would have been towers here just like the castle, and there would have been slits on either side in case of any invasion or whatever they used to call it back then. So the outer ward has what they call a curtain wall all the way around it, up to the edges of the castle. They didn't go behind the castle because the castle is on a crag, and you'll see it in a minute and how high we get. Nobody would have climbed the crag up behind the castle. It was just too steep, too big. Nobody in their right mind, that's for sure. And here we're starting to see the distance. You can see all around the castle. You can see quite far into the distance and see any approaching enemies. So that's pretty cool. It's amazing to think that used to be used as a real castle to defend the people inside it. All along the outer ward curtain wall, there were these D-shaped sort of tower defences, if you like, defence towers. And in them they had like arrow slits, which could be used to see if anybody was trying to climb the walls or trying to invade. Any invaders coming, they could be seen and shot at with arrows, basically. It's just really freaky to think that that could have happened, or did happen, as it turns out. Well, it's pretty scary thinking that that actually happened right here at this place. This is one of the castle's two wells, one being in the inner ward and this one being in the outer ward. You'll come across this as you're walking up towards the castle. It's obviously filled in now. Obviously, I don't want people falling in there, but at the time it was functional. It was 240 feet deep. Well, it's actually recorded that women used to carry water from here up to the castle because the castle well in the inner ward was not functional for a very long time. This here, you can see in the distance on the hill over there, is another castle, but it's only a 19th century castle. I call it a fake castle because it looks like a medieval castle, but it was built in the 19th century, so it's kind of a bit, and it's actually now a hotel, and you can get married there, and it's quite lovely on the inside, but it's all modern and it just looks like a medieval castle, but it's not real. Continuing up the outer ward, up towards the main castle, this is the castle, or what's left of it. Okay, let me just pause it there and I'll fade in a mock of the castle, what it used to look like that I've been working on. It's just what we call, I work in the games industry and I make video games and I make environments, and this is what we call a white box or a grey box. So I'm just boxing it out, and I will eventually complete this so that we can do like fly-throughs and see it all rendered with stone and everything eventually. But it takes a long time. But you can get a sense of what the castle used to be like up on this hill. It used to look pretty impressive, really stood out. The bridge across to the castle was similar to what it is now when it was originally built, but it would have been wooden. It would not have been concrete and metal, which is what it is now. But it would have been very similar and scaled across that man-made ditch that goes all the way around the castle, and I'll talk about that a bit more in a minute. But this wooden bridge didn't last long. It lasted for about 80 years, and then in the sort of 1300s, early 1300s, they built what they call a causeway, and you can see a part of that here underneath the bridge. It still exists, but what they would have done is built up that causeway to go part way across the ditch, and then they would have had a drawbridge that came down to meet the causeway, and that would have given the castle complete isolation, so anybody in there who didn't want to be invaded would have been secure, which is what they wanted for these castles. I mean, the person living in here, the king, would have never lived in here. It would have been looked after by like a ward of the king or a constable of the king, and he would have lived here. And the castle had living quarters, primarily 3 rooms, 1 room on either side of the entrance there, quarters 1 and quarters 2. You can see I've put them there, but quarters 1 still exists, and you can go into that room, and I'll show you that later. And then there would have been another quarters above 1 and 2 that spanned across the entire 2 towers, and you can see the floor beams are still present in the castle, but the obviously the room doesn't exist because that part of the tower is no longer there. Okay, so let's move forward and continue into the castle. Okay, this ditch that you see here could be mistaken for a moat, and it kind of is in some ways, but it was never full of water. What they did was carve this out, and the stone they took from this ditch here was used to build the castle itself. So all the material from here was used in the castle. There's one thing here which really intrigued me, and that's this. This is like an arched window, like the top of a window, but it's too low down. When we get in the castle, you'll see the floor of the room in there is just below the arrow slits. You can see the arrow slits there, and I'll point that out when we get in there. So I don't know what that window arch is. I couldn't find any information, so whether it was like some sort of secret underground basement thing or something, I'm not sure, but I'm going to investigate that further. You can see the views across the Cheshire Plains are incredible in all directions, and here we are looking north, and as we turn we're looking northeast. This is the inner ward well, and it is reported to be around 146 meters deep. It's been a long-standing sort of tradition that King Richard II left treasure in the well, hid it down there, and for safekeeping. But archaeologists have excavated this site twice to try and search for it, but it's never been found. However, they did find 3 tunnels or chambers that lead off from the well. They've never gone into those and studied that further, but you never know. It might be down there somewhere. Some lost treasure. That would be pretty awesome to find that. Okay, so let's start exploring some of the quarters, or what would have been the living accommodation in this castle. There isn't much of it, I don't think, but this here is one of the towers from outside, and it's the room where I questioned the window, top of the window, and you can see where the you can see the floor up above there where it was, and note where the arrow slits are relative to the floor here. I'm not sure if that was the floor at the time. I think personally that it used to go down much lower, and I'll show you why. So there's one arrow slit, and there's the other arrow slit, and that is this. So you can see where the 2 arrow slits are. That's what we're looking out of currently, and you can see where the floor level would have been, or is currently. So below that you have this window arched thing there. It's just left over. I don't know what it is. I can't explain it. I've asked people and they don't know what it is either, or can't explain it. So I'm going to look into it a bit further, see if I can find some research on that. I think there was some sort of, I think the floor went down much lower perhaps, and there was some sort of underground, whether it was a tunnel, maybe it's an escape route, I don't know what I'm guessing, but it's really interesting nonetheless. Okay, so let's carry on with our rooms. So there's something inside the house. And if we go down further along the wall, down near the well, this is the southeast tower, and you'll see it has amazing views, like everything else in this castle. But this little window here would have given you a view across the southeast, which looks pretty spectacular, and the other window over there would have given you a view directly south. If you look at the outside, this is what we're looking out of right now. And if you come down here, that hole in the wall down the bottom there is where they found a fireplace, and it was the only fireplace they could find in the whole castle. So the rest of the quarters and buildings were warmed by the torches on the walls. So that's really interesting. So when archaeologists were exploring this area, they found items that dated well back before the castle was even built, into the Bronze Age. And the Bronze Age spanned from 3300 BC up to around 1200 BC. So that's almost 4,500 years before the castle was even built, potentially. So that's just quite mind-blowing that this crag, or this mound, whatever you want to call it, was occupied way back then by people living in the Bronze Age, making flints and little arrowheads and things like that. It's pretty amazing. And this hut is, well, you can hear the lady describe it
right.
for yourself. Wow, it's dark.
Have you been here before?
No. Amazing.
Can you guess what animal that is?
It was built as a visitor centre for children, that was the idea.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to get a class of 30 in here.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
But it was experimental archaeology, so it's all made by volunteers, using the same tools and methods that they would have done.
Yeah.
There's no power tools, no glue, no nails.
They remind you of any animal.
And finally, we come to the caves, which is also on the ground. You have to walk a little further to see these, but they're worth it. They look really cool, believe it or not. But these are the caves that were used in the 1992 Robin Hood movie with Uma Thurman. And they're now sort of blocked off from access because rare bats have been found in these caves and they don't want them disturbed. And which is understandable, quite frankly. And there's also been some sightings of like ghostly activity, flickering lights, and even reports of an old lady rocking backwards and forwards in a rocking chair. Kind of weird stuff, but you know, it's all myth and legend, which is quite cool. But they are very impressive when you come to see them. There's others in the area, some smaller ones, but these are the most impressive. I'm not actually sure what they were used for, but some say they were used for flour storage, food storage, and during battles they were used to store horses in there and stuff like that. So I don't know exactly. I tried to find information about it, but there's not a lot of info on it, other than the myths and legends and the movies. Anyway, that's pretty much it for Beeston Castle, and I really hope you enjoyed this tour. It's been amazing. We thoroughly enjoyed it, and if you liked it, please click like and subscribe to the channel, because there's going to be a whole ton more of these, and keep watching because I've got more to come. I'll leave you with this little montage of a few other things and a bit of the gift shop that we went into afterwards and bought lots of gifts from. And that's it. Bye for now.